What's good, family? Smash the like button and subscribe. Wow. So, as you've seen by the title, your man's Rob mcCrappen is MIA in Anthony Joshua's training camp for Alexander Usyk, which is only not long now, only 6 weeks away. And listen, Rob mcCrappen has been absent as well. This isn't he's gone off for a week. Rob mcCrappen is missing. Not there. He don't care. And one of the key quotes I want to bring you here, apart from obviously the Sky article, which has brought this to the attention, the key piece here was the following, which is what AJ said. We made the decision that whatever the date for the Tyson Fury fight, it was penciled for August 14th before talks collapsed. AJ would take it, even if Rob had to pop to Tokyo. Rob is a massive part of AJ's corner and his life. Now, pop to Tokyo means 5-6 weeks away, by the way, not pop to Tokyo, because Rob's the head UK boxing Team GB coach Don, which means that not only do you have to go away for the boxing, but also they have a holding camp in another country near Japan. Also, they have another camp before that. So, bottom line is, he'd have been gone for 6, 7, probably 2 months, which would have been the best part of the whole camp. Bearing in mind, AJ's fighting would have been fighting on August 14th. As we know, boxing is currently on right now. August 14th is in the pinnacle of the boxing thing, no doubt. So the point is here. Not the point. The fact of the matter is, this needed to be brought to the public's attention. Because, yeah, AJ's a kind of a private athlete, but the fact of the matter is, in my opinion, AJ fans, we are stakeholders. You man buy the pay-per-views, you man buy the merch, all this stuff. That's what you call a stakeholder. Yeah? We have a right to know what's going on with our champion, bottom line. And in fact, we have a right to know what's not going on as well. Simple as that. Where's the accountability here? And I wouldn't mind, I really wouldn't. I wouldn't mind if things were all Chris, yeah? If everything was super Chris, and AJ was on a path, and he's improving every fight, and things are going in the right direction, and whatever else, I'd say, you know what, Rob? If you're that good, that you believe you can two-time, and you believe you can do 4 jobs at once, go ahead. But unfortunately, Rob, you can't do one job well. How about that? You haven't. You can't. You haven't got a resume of top fighters that you've taken from scratch and turned from dirt hills to diamonds. You haven't got that. And you've been funny, you've been in the game for 30 years. So by now, Rob mcCrappen should have a resume thick of fighters from different walks of lives, or from with different skills, and he should have a resume full, a CV full of fighters he's taken from A all the way to Z. Fighters he's taken from 1 out of 10s to 10 out of 10s. That's what he should have by now, especially when you've got young trainers like Shane McGuigan, who's only been in the sport for 5-6 years, and he's shown you exactly what I'm talking about. Rob mcCrappen's been in the game 10 times longer than Shane McGuigan, and he don't have nowhere near the resume. And that's what frustrates me here, because what's supposed to happen in the sport is the best fighters, people like AJ with the best potential, are supposed to team up with the best trainers, people who have the best resumes. Why is that important? Because it brings around the best result for the stakeholders, for the individual, for everyone involved. As a fan, as a supporter, it needs to be said. And it's one thing, yeah, if you've got a trainer who really commits to his job, but he's just no good. We all know there's trainers out there who really love what they do and they're really committed, but they just ain't got the IQ or the skills to do it. Fair play to them. But they're committed. Rob mcCrappen, he is one of them trainers who ain't got a clue what he's doing, but he has 2 jobs. Do you know how mad that is? Like I said, it's one thing if you're super committed and you're just no good. It's another thing if you're no good and then you've got multiple jobs. What is this? Why does AJ accept this? So I'm sorry, as much as I can roast Rob mcCrappen, because he is no good, his resume says so, I've got to be asking some serious questions. What does Rob have over AJ? It's super weird. I can't understand it. Rob mcCrappen doesn't believe, or for whatever reason, he doesn't believe in AJ. He doesn't feel the need to, whatever reason, Rob mcCrappen hasn't committed fully to AJ. Why is that? It's not like you can say, well, YB, AJ's only making 10 grand a year and it's hard to make a living, it's hard to feed his family. You've got the number one most highest paid athlete in the sport. If anyone has the resources to commit to just doing one thing, it's you. So what is it? I don't know, it's super weird. I can't understand it. Most people would give, or most top trainers would give their right arm to work with a talent like AJ. Top trainers who really care about results would give their right arm to work with a talent like AJ alone. For some reason, Rob mcCrappen has the opportunity to make a real mark on the history of the sport, to potentially retire having trained the best fighter in the world ever, in my opinion. And you're swanning away on amateur camps. It's almost as if being an amateur trainer is what truly burns in Rob mcCrappen's soul, and I think he's probably right. That's what his results say. Rob mcCrappen is an amateur trainer, that's the truth. And he knows it. That's why he can't leave the amateur scene. Because he knows he ain't a real professional trainer. And if you disagree with me, show me the resume. Show me it. Because Shane McGuigan, in 10 times less the time, in 5 years, Rob mcCrappen's had 30, 40 years. In 3, 4, 5 years, Shane McGuigan, there's clear cause and effect. People like Carl Frampton, people like George Groves. And this is what I'll try and tell you when I talk about the A to Z of fighters. When you have a resume, when you're a great trainer, yeah, you can show a resume of A to Z fighters. You can show fighters who looked finished, who were at the end of their career, washed, no, psychologically shot to bits. AKA George Groves. George Groves would tell you this. We all could see it. George Groves was finished. He'd been through a load of trainers. He just couldn't win a world championship. He was washed. Next thing you know, gets with Shane McGuigan, and is completely, you know what I'm saying? And he wins his first world title, and he's a world beater again. There's only Callum Smith who did that. Yeah? That's one example of a fighter at the end of his career. We've got people like Okoli, he was another one. Had all the talent, young, but he was in a bit of a rut. Boom, gets to Shane McGuigan within a year. Night and day difference. And there's loads of other examples as well. They're just a few I'm specifically kind of tuned into. How many of them? Show me some of them stories that Rob mcCrappen has in his 30-year career. Because we're not talking about 30 years for Shane. I'm talking about 5 years for Shane. Show me Rob mcCrappen's example. Show me it. Where? There should be low by 30 years in. Being able to, in fact, categorically, being blessed to work with an athlete like AJ, you best have a resume to back it up. Or better yet, like I said, if you haven't got a resume to back it up, who do you think you are to be having 2 jobs? Because as much as I question AJ, ultimately it comes back down to Rob mcCrappen. As a man, who do you think you are not showing your athletes? Because either way, you can look at it both ways. Me in particular, I'm bothered about AJ, but it works the other way too. How can Rob mcCrappen truly commit to either one of them? It's crazy. Team GB have a man who's half in this game, half in that game. What is this? How can you be the greatest? I don't believe. Listen, the fact of the matter is, you can only be great at one thing at a time. And the fact of the matter is, again, you ain't great to be both. I'd love to sit here and tell you are. Well, to be fair, YB, he's proved you wrong. He's great at doing both. He ain't. Because AJ ain't performing great. Fact. I don't know about the amateur team, but the fact of the matter is, I can tell you now, he ain't doing one of them great. So that already proves itself. But again, back to the individual. What's going through his mind? Does he not think, you know what, I owe these kids, I owe AJ my full attention? How big does your ego have to be to believe you can do essentially two of the hardest jobs? You've got one of the most highest level amateur squads in the world in Team GB boxing. You've got, categorically in my opinion, the highest level boxer. And you think you can just dib in and dib out. And oh well, sorry son, you would have had your biggest fight with Tyson Fury coming up, but I'm just going to swan off to Tokyo for 6 weeks. What is this? I'm sorry, it's shocking. It's an amateur approach. It sounds to me, not being disrespectful, but this sounds to me like some wayward amateur gym kind of thing. Oh, you know what, son? I'm off to Lanzarote for a few. Well, I mean, it's in and out. And I'm not being funny. That's quite rude of me, because I'm pretty sure there isn't even amateur gyms who would treat their fighters like this and just swan off. Especially the ones who have made them who they are. I mean, you look at, going back to Rob mcCrappen's resume, you look at people like Carl Froch. We talk about Shane McGuigan taking George Groves from where he was to where he is, and how Lawrence Okolie from where he was to where he is. Rob mcCrappen had Carl Froch, and he was one of the most stale fighters in history, truthfully. Never changed in 10 years, just stale. And what gets me the most is that people, for some reason, they're blinded by AJ's success. They can't separate the fact that AJ is a super athlete. Do you understand that? Which means that a super athlete doesn't have to be anywhere near his optimum to become undisputed. People like Carl Froch weren't super athletes, so they were only able to get a one belt and whatever else. Because he got beat by the super athlete, Andre Ward, for example. But the facts are, putting genetics to the side, what's important here is to look at the change. Looking at change over time is what's important. You can't... People love to tell me about how many belts AJ's got and how much money he's got. The results aren't what's relevant. It's the individual change, because we've all got different gifts, if that makes sense. And the fact that AJ's been gifted to such an extent, you can't count his results as example of how great mcCracken is. You have to look at how he's changed over time. That's the representation of how great a trainer is. A particular result, for example, to make it obvious, if your fighter was 18 foot tall and 5,000 pounds in weight, would you really respect a trainer for having the heavyweight world champion? Do you understand what I'm saying? It'd be obvious. Well, of course you're going to be the heavyweight champion, because anyone could have trained him. He's 18 foot tall. Now, obviously, AJ isn't that extreme, but the point is, it's the same kind of analogy I'm talking about. AJ's that 18-foot man. So I believe anyone could essentially train AJ to get where he was today. Bare bones, anyone could have done it. Because the heavyweight division is so weak, relatively speaking. There's pretty much any trainer who knows anything about boxing could have got him to where he is today. And the evidence of that is, show me where you see all this real depth in AJ's skill. Show me it. You tell me a particular skill you've seen, and you can sit there and say, you know what, that skill took years to learn. A jab's a jab. A right hand's a right hand. Show me it. Tell me it. You tell me some high-level skills you've seen AJ pull off. Exactly. There's very few. Now, it's not a knock, but it's a fact. The facts are, look at Carl Froch. Same kind of stuff. Show me the high-level skills you see Carl Froch do really well. You don't see them, because Rob mcCracken doesn't know how to teach them. He doesn't know high-level skills. He doesn't know he doesn't know or understand the cute extras you can add on to great fighters. Which is why his fighters look stale. Carl Froch for 10 years looked the same. Where was the change? I can see the change in Shane McGuigan and George Groves. I can see the change in Lawrence Okolie and Shane McGuigan. Where is the change in AJ? Oh, what? jabbing and disengaging. That's the change you want to talk about. And by the way, that only came in after he lost as well. And I've explained it before. That really is Rob mcCrappen all over. Rob mcCrappen has his fighter lose, and rather than really digging in and getting to the crux of the problem, they create a cheap knockoff solution. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll just completely lose our personality in the ring and become Tyson Fury 2.0 and run around and nick a jab and nick rounds. That's what we'll do, and that's what's happened. Rather than saying, you know what, we clearly have some defensive holes. AJ isn't comfortable under fire. We need to tighten his defense up. We need to make sure he's comfortable catching shots, being defensively aware, parrying. Look at Alvarez's defense. He's got his high guard. He can watch shots coming. Not even just him. Look at Gervonta Tank Davis. Here's another one. Look at Tank Davis's high guard. His high guard's up. He's looking to parry straight shots. He's catching hooks. It's straightforward, but it's high level. They know how to defend themselves in front of someone. That's what AJ needed to do when he got beat by Ruiz. AJ didn't know how to be under fire. He was bamboozled, confused. Because he'd never been there before. Why? His trainer don't know what he's doing. Bottom line. Ain't got a clue. Many people have said over the years that Carl Froch defended shots with his chin. Which again sums up Rob mcCrappen. That sounds a lot like Rob mcCrappen to me. The difference is AJ's at heavyweight, and because that's what happened against Ruiz, AJ found out he doesn't have the defense, which meant that he ended up essentially having to defend shots with his chin. Which at heavyweight, Carl Froch had a granite chin. AJ is at heavyweight, so even if he does, it's a completely different ball game. 170-pound men and 250-pound men, it's a different ball game. But either way, let's say for argument's sake, AJ's chin isn't as good as Froch's. Well, there you go then. That exposes Rob mcCrappen all over. Because even someone like Carl Froch, where was his? Over the period, Rob mcCrappen was with him for 15, 20 years. Where was the progression of defense? Oh no, just chin. All chin. And unfortunately, that same staleness I'm seeing with AJ's skills. Not the low level stuff. Yes, AJ can jab and disengage and dance off. That's low level. I'm talking about the medium and high level skills. The skills that really pay the bills. Where are they? Because I don't see them. I mean, even offensively speaking. When you see AJ in there with Pulev and he's rattling off 4 uppercuts and they're all hitting the guard. When AJ's headhunting. Show me one time you saw AJ throw a power shot to the body. Show me it. I mean, in fact, you know what? Even historically speaking, in AJ's career, show me where you've seen him throw a power shot to the body. Show me where you've seen him dig a hook or dig an uppercut. Or even a right hand. Show me where you've seen AJ consistently invest in the body in a fight. Oops, you can't see it. Which is my point. It don't exist. AJ headhunts, and in that last Pulev fight, headhunting and guard punching. Not setting anything up. No finesse. That unfortunately, I was saying these things 5 years ago. AJ's renowned as a headhunter. We know that you can be much more effective actually hitting the head once you've dug them to the body, because it obviously gets them to lower their hands. Pretty basic, medium to high level, but I'd put that as medium to high level skill still, because once you're in the fight, it's easy for me to sit there and commentate it, but it's actually what happens is, when you're in the middle of a fight and you see you've hurt your opponent, your adrenaline drops and you want to go mad and knock them out. But that's the point. That's why it's a medium to high level skill, because you're supposed to have had it trained into you. Look at people like Alvarez. Look at Mike Tyson. That's the point. That's what we know is Mike Tyson was trained by the best. Castillo, who was under Kevin Rooney and Teddy Atlas. The very best. That's what I'm talking about here. Not Rob mcCrappen. Because guess what? Like I said, if you disagree, if you want to disagree, don't say, "Oh, YB, you're a hater." Just tell me the skills, innit? Because I've told you, I've explained it all. Don't at me about how many belts he's got or how much money he's made. Just tell me where are the high level skills. Tell me where they are. Write them out. Write me five high level, medium to high level skills you see AJ consistently executing. Because all I see is a genetic phenom with pretty basic skills. Really, when you take it apart, he has the ability to do it, but the guidance isn't there. Unfortunately, it's not. It's not there. And Rob mcCrappen, who ain't no good anyway, don't even commit his full time and energy to it. It's madness. And I don't know what AJ, I don't know what planet AJ's on, talking about, Rob mcCrappen's the gaffer. The gaffer of what? He ain't the gaffer of skills. He ain't the gaffer of improvement. You ain't improving, I'm sorry you're not. The way you was loading up the right hand against Pulev, I've seen you do that for 7 years. Missing it by miles, leaning over your leg, going wild, throwing 4 massive uppercuts to the head and not landing any of them. I was screaming at the TV to dig one of them uppercuts to his body. No, all went to the head, all went to the guard. Wasted. Poor training, poor execution. So, what are we doing here? We have to get realistic. And it's almost like everyone is focused on the result. Even AJ, I'm winning, I can't believe I've got 4 belts. Or, how much do you believe in yourself? Because I don't see that. I see your potential. And your potential is not, like, in 2021, in this world, everyone seems to be kind of, it's all about the money or the belts, but really, it should be about your ability and how much you've fulfilled out of that ability. Getting belts is what it is. And that's why I do rate Alvarez, to be fair, because no matter how many belts or how much money he makes, you always tell he's, you know what I'm saying, he wants to fine tune himself as a fighting machine. Now, I'm not saying AJ doesn't want to do that. I just don't think AJ knows how good he could be. I don't think he understands that. Because if he thinks Rob mcCrappen is fulfilling his potential, he's wrong. Bottom line. Bottom line. It's as simple as that. It really is. And the man don't even respect you enough to commit and say, you know what, this Team GB thing can wait because I've got potentially the best athlete of all time in my grasp. It's funny because Customato was waiting 30, 40 years for his Mike Tyson. I think at the time it was it Sonny Liston? I'm not sure, but either way, Customato was waiting for his Sonny Liston. I think Sonny Liston beat one of his fighters. And ever since that point, he was waiting for his Sonny Liston. And then Mike Tyson came along. But my point is, trainers wait a lifetime for them kind of talents. Mike Tyson, AJ. Customato waited a lifetime. And at the end of his life, he was clinging on. That's how much, you understand? You didn't see Customato saying, yeah, I think I'm going to get a job at Team USA. No. He knew how special it was to get one of them once in a lifetime talents like Mike Tyson, like AJ. He weren't signing up to train Team USA. Couldn't believe his luck. Because he was a historian, because of his love for the sport and appreciation of the sport, he knew how much that meant and how much he owed that to not only the fighter but even more so to the sport. And that's what I'm getting at here. Stop atting me about how many belts AJ's got. I couldn't give 2 hoots. I'm talking about what essentially AJ and AJ's trainer owe to the sport of boxing. To the history books, to the fans, and ultimately to themselves. But the point is, at AJ's at AJ's true best, yeah. If AJ was fully fulfilled in skill, in my opinion, he would go down as the number one of all time. But obviously, it's easy for me to say that. But I don't know. I just got a feeling. Call me whatever you want. Oh, you like to ride it, whatever. I'm just saying. That bass. No, he ain't nowhere near it now. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you. He's nowhere near it now. If his career ended here, he ain't never going to be the best of all time. But he has the ability. He could be that. With the right direction. And this ain't it. Mr. Team GB for 6 weeks on your most important fight. That ain't it. Imagine that. It's mad. Cuss would be turning in his grave. Wouldn't believe it, what's going on in the sport today. You get them once in a life. Look again, trainers wait a lifetime for an athlete like that to come through their doors. Not, I mean, really, yeah? Trainers would quit jobs. I've heard of, I think it was Victor Ortiz. Victor Ortiz's trainer, yeah? Victor Ortiz's trainer was working as a Coca-Cola driver. And when he got with Victor Ortiz, who ain't even really all that, but either way, when he got with him, he believed in him that much, he quit his job to train him full time. Do you understand? That's what's supposed to happen. That's what the belief does. It sucks you in. It brings you in. It doesn't. You understand? People leave jobs. People sacrifice to be with them kind of once in a lifetime athletes. And even when I'm not being funny, Victor Ortiz wasn't even all that. But that shows you the passion and the whatever you want to call it that particular trainer had, that belief he had in that fighter. He believed he could be the next Mayweather, even if he was wrong. Rob mcCrappen, in my opinion, has a true potential phenom, and that's the thing. You never know until you get there. You never know until you're in the thick of it. How good they really are. But one thing we do know is this ain't it. This really ain't it. It's bad. And I was gonna end it there, but you know what? Let me say this right now, because there is a solution. The solution is, AJ, simple solution as well. It's not rocket science. AJ, cut off all the dead weight, bringing in these random trainers, Fernando Alonso and all these randomers. No one's ever. Where's their resume? All I'll say to you is, where is their resume? Don't no one know. Oh well, he trained Isaac Chamberlain. Oh, wow. I've noticed a lot of fighters these days, they tend to go with trainers that, I don't know, they just tend to go with trainers that they like, or, oh, I did a session with him at a gym and he can be my trainer. No, you've got to apply your sport, or you've got to apply some almost maths to it. Track record, who has a CV of it? And I'm sorry, in UK boxing, the number one guy right now is Shane McGuigan. And I'm not being funny, but a few fighters have clocked onto that. Daniel Dubois, for example. Well, in fact, it's not the only one. There's been a few. I don't know what AJ's doing, but this, I don't know what kind of approach. You're the best athlete and you're picking these random trainers. Someone please help me. I'm struggling to understand what's going on. People give people these accolades. Oh no, YB, you're wrong. Alonso is a great trainer. Based on what? Show me some evidence. What great fighters has he had? Or better yet, I'm not even bothered about great fighters. It's not about great fighters. Show me fighters he's taken from A to B. That's what's important. Because some people aren't good enough, or some people don't have the ability to be great. But show him. If I can see you take a average fighter to a decent one, then at least you got that evidence. Show me it. Because most of these men don't. I don't know how they got into the camp, but it's madness. I think it's more the way that, if I was to bet, based on how AJ has employed people, it's based on how he feels about them. Oh, I like Rob as a person. He helped me out when I was down, when I was 15 or whatever. So I'm going to keep him along. Oh, Fernando Alonso. I met him in the gym and he was cool and he treated me like a normal human being. He didn't suck me off because I'm a famous man. That's what I reckon. That's how I think AJ hires trainers. Which, listen, if you like them as people, have them as your friend. Put them on your payroll. Have them hang around the place. But when it comes to this boxing game, it's not about who. If anything, I prefer you didn't get on with your trainer. And they know what they're doing. Because you don't need to be getting along with your trainer. They don't need to be your best friend. They need to know what needs to be done. That's the truth. All this friend business, and it's that new 2021 approach of doing things. Oh, well, we all need to get along and have good chemistry and be a good team and a big family. What? You need to get the job done. That's what you need to do.